Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you haven't been here before, I'm Jamie. I read a lot of books. I have cats whose tails might occasionally pop across the screen. And I'm back today to do a tag video. I've been watching a lot of classics tag videos while distracting myself from watching the Gaza-Israel war. Lovely. Which has changed my TBR as well, so I'll be doing a new weekly TBR video in a couple days. And spoiler alert, there may be some books set in the Middle East or by Middle Eastern authors, because it's kind of hard to concentrate on things that don't connect to that in some way. So I'm admitting defeat, sort of. I will be reading other books besides those, and I'm not letting myself start the new ones until the end of the week. But yeah, there will be some interesting books in my new TBR. Yay. But let's get into the classics tag so we don't run out of time and make this ridiculously long. Question 1. Why do you read classics and how often do you read them? So I read classics because they are part of the broad conversation that is literature and books. And if you miss the references that are those earlier books, you miss out on part of what's being said in the things that are referencing it. So this is not just true in great literature, it's true in a lot of literature. So if you're reading a murder mystery series and the detective is reading a particular book and it's depressing, well, if you don't know that book, you don't really understand why it's depressing. If you've read it before, there's one where he was reading Tess of the D'Urbervilles, and he was doing a case involving a sexual assault. And if you've read the book, you understand why this is maybe not the best book for him to be reading right now, and yeah, he should probably just put it down and move on. Yeah, but if you've not read it, you don't really know what the connection is with the story. So it's not just great literature, but great literature does reference earlier literature as well. So just the more you've read, the more you know for future reading. So whether I like a book or not, if it's a classic, there's a good chance that there's something in it that will be referenced at some point by somebody else. Still doesn't mean that I have to read every word on every page. If it's horrible, I did skim a lot of the parts of Ulysses where there were no punctuation marks and just, yeah. When it's just a list of names, I'll skim that. Although I did actually jot down a lot of names for cats while reading Ulysses. So the list of names maybe got more eyeball attention than some of the other pages. Yeah. What is a period, country, or culture that you have not read many books from and would like to? I don't think I've read more than 1 or 2 books ever by authors from Spain, which is odd because it's a rather big country and a lot of things have happened there, and somehow there's not a lot of, even modern classics that show up, at least where I'm living, from authors from Spain. So I will be watching for more and poking at the existence of such authors. It seems like there should be a lot of them. Maybe they just haven't been translated from the Spanish yet. Or not even just from Spanish. It could have been translated from Basque or, a dialect. But I just haven't found very many. I actually have friends who are from the Basque country in Spain. So I think I might have even read a book from the Basque country. But not more than that for sure. What was the last classic you read? So I just finished The Picture of Dorian Gray, which was a reread. I don't do that very often. Let's see, where is it? It's this really sad copy. Oh my goodness, it's really sad. Yeah. Um, I watched a few videos where other people were talking about the picture of Dorian Gray, and my siblings have read it. I don't know if all of them have read it or just some of them, but um, I didn't like it nearly as much as they did. So I figured I was missing something, and I should probably reread it. So I did. And I actually did like some elements of it better than I did the first time. I liked Dorian Gray before he decides to commit a murder. Um, I don't really see though like the point of um, why he's corrupt. I I yeah, I'll do a video about Dorian Gray. Anyway, that's the last one I read. I finished it today. What was the first classic I ever read? The Chronicles of Narnia by C.S. Lewis. Because my dad used to read it to me as bedtime stories in second grade, and between second and third grade, I was reading it to my dad for bedtime stories instead. Um, yeah, really good books. I loved them. I'm not really into allegory anymore, but I really enjoyed it back then. I also liked Pilgrim's Progress back then. But I started with Chronicles of Narnia, especially the last battle is lovely, and the Magician's Nephew is beautiful. Yeah, the end and the beginning. Favorite classic book cover? Oh, I'll have to pull it out sometime later. I've been packing to move. I have a beautiful, beautiful copy of The Neverending Story by Michael Ende, which I wouldn't have thought of as a classic until I realized that actually it probably is a modern classic. I think actually it was one that was published as a modern classic, for that matter. And it's had a movie, and it's a lot better than the movie. The book is complicated. And the movie, The Neverending Story, is just the first part. And after that, the real fun begins. And it's trippy. And very literary. And it's a lovely book. I'm surprised that more people don't know that it exists. Most people that I've met don't realize that there was a book that went with the movie. And they assume that maybe it was a book that was written after the movie, which it's not. Lovely, lovely book. Let's see. Classic authors you wish had written more books. Nancy Mitford. She wrote a trilogy. Love in a Cold Climate. Pursuit of Love. I think In Pursuit of Love is first. Love in a Cold Climate is second. And I read the third one. But I don't remember the name of it. But those are really good, and I wish she'd written more. John Kennedy Toole, who wrote Confederacy of Dunces, that was written as the only book he ever wrote. He committed suicide. His mom found the manuscript, and it was published posthumously. Beautiful novel. When you read it, you understand his suicide as well, unfortunately. But he probably would have written some amazing books if he'd lived past that book. Let's see, least favorite classic. Catcher in the Rye, Lord of the Flies. Everybody says that. I haven't heard a lot of booktubers say that they love those two books, actually. There are others. Death of a Salesman was terrible. I think he used it to prop up some shelves after I read it. It was a horrible book. But it was the right size to prop up some shelves, so that was good. Favorite modern classic and favorite translated classic are the same book for me. The Glass Bead Game by Hermann Hesse. I love that book. I recommend it to people all the time too, and most people I've recommended it to think it's dry and boring. So I don't know what that says about me and my reading tastes, but I loved it. Classic literary places you would like to visit. I'm not much of a traveler unless I can stay somewhere a long time. So I'm not really sure. But for a while, I really wanted to move to Ireland. I read a lot of books set in Ireland. I was listening to Irish music all the time. I was like, I should be in Ireland. After a while, I started thinking about some of the practical sides. Like, they have a TV tax? Really? There's some details that for me would be weird and uncomfortable, and maybe I'll just stay put and read about Ireland. Yeah. First classic you would recommend for a child. Chronicles of Narnia worked for me. Beatrix Potter is good. Secret Garden is good. It depends on the kid and their reading level. I started out, as soon as I could read, I started reading bigger books. And a lot of kids don't do that. So I was, starting with Chronicles of Narnia, and then I went from there to Lord of the Rings and never looked back. But if it's not a kid like me, okay, Beatrix Potter is probably a good start. Yeah. Classics you think are mistitled, and what would you title them? I don't know. I mean, maybe some of the romantic stuff could have names that, but Jane Eyre is about Jane Eyre, and, alright, Sense and Sensibility and Pride and Prejudice, for me, don't do anything, so I don't know what I'd call them. But yeah, a lot of the Jane Austen books, the names don't really reference for me what the plot's about. So I might find better titles for them. Favorite classic I'd like to recommend to everyone. Neverending Story works, since everybody seems to think that my favorite German book is not fun. But if you like nerdy books that are kind of like, histories and biographies but made up, then The Glass Bead Guide by Hermann Hesse. Otherwise, The Neverending Story by Michael Ende would be my recommendations. And I am not tagging anyone because I am a new booktuber, and everybody I've been watching has already done this tag, so they don't need to do it again. But if things have changed, if your answers are different, definitely do an updated version, because everybody I'm watching I've been subscribing to, so I'll see it. That will be very exciting. So kind of tag yourself if you'd like to do an update or if you haven't done it before. And I will definitely check it out when it pops up. So for now, talk to you later. And let me know in the comments if you've read any of the books I've talked about. And if you want to tell me what your answers are to some of these questions. Happy reading, everybody.